Hello and welcome to the latest episode of our course all about the well building standard and specifically the air concept. Now, previously we talked about the different ways to meet the requirements when it comes to testing and understanding your air quality levels within the well building standard. So in the air concept, there is performance testing and sensor data. So today what we're going to do is take a deep dive into the world of continuous monitoring and sensor data. So that's really about installing monitors and continuously taking measurements. So let's talk about what features you can use sensor data as a form of verification. Previously, many years ago when I first got into the well building standard, there were basically no options. All air quality readings were done through performance verification testing, somebody coming on site, sometimes with a monitor, a tripod, and a clipboard to write down readings on. Things have changed a lot, and I also really want to take a moment to commend the IWBI for evolving with the technology, because the technology for measuring air quality has improved so much over the past 10, 15 years, and the standard has really evolved along with that technology. And so today there are many features that can be achieved using continuous monitoring and sensor data. Let's go through some of them. Number one, A01. So this is a precondition. All buildings need to meet this precondition to essentially hit baseline thresholds for good air quality. This is across 4 parameters, and these need to be measured once a year or more frequently. So there's particulate matter, there's TVOC, there's several others. Starting with particulate matter. There's kind of 3 options depending on where in the world your building is. If you are in an area where there are really high outdoor levels of PM 2.5, then the threshold will be slightly higher, so you can have slightly higher level of particulate matter indoors. And that ensures that even in cities where there's really bad outdoor air pollution, if buildings are filtering a high enough percentage of outdoor air to try and ensure sort of basic good indoor air quality, there's a pathway for them. Now, this can be achieved using sensor data from sensors that are installed on the walls. A01 Part 2, this is around organic gases, and there's 2 options here. You can either do this by testing individually for specific VOCs using the more traditional performance testing method, or you can use continuous monitoring to track TVOC. So if you have a monitor installed which is able to measure TVOCs, then this box can be automatically checked. Part 3, inorganic gases. This is focused on carbon monoxide and ozone. There are different thresholds depending on the usage of your space, right? If this is a commercial kitchen, then the thresholds are slightly higher. And again, this Part 3 can be achieved either using performance testing or using continuous monitors. Part 4 is around radon, and there are 2 pathways that you can take here. The first is to use sensor data from a continuous monitor to show that radon is below a certain level, but this isn't actually usually necessary. If your space has a letter of assurance from an engineer saying that it meets the requirements of feature A03 Part 1, Option 1, it's getting very specific, then you're automatically good. And that feature is a precondition, and it's essentially just saying that the building meets pretty normal standards for HVAC. So essentially, if your building meets ASHRAE 62.1, which pretty much every building will, then you will not need to measure radon. Personally, having worked on many well projects, I have never seen a project myself that actually needed to measure radon. And then Part 5 is, this is Part 5 of feature A01. Again, this is still the precondition. this requires annual testing or more frequent, right? It can be more frequent, but at least once per year, you need to measure these parameters here. PM 2.5, PM 10, carbon monoxide, ozone, and TVOC, or a collection of specific VOCs. So this essentially requires that once per year, either there's continuous monitors on the wall, which are just continually taking this information and then submitting it, or you will essentially have to have performance testing be done once per year. A03, ventilation design. This precondition is really just about making sure that your building has good ventilation. The option here for continuous monitoring is option 4 under A03, and it's essentially just showing that your long-term CO2 levels are within a certain threshold, under 900 ppm or less than 500 ppm above outdoor levels. And so this is not a place where you can use performance testing, because again, performance testing would just be sort of a point-in-time check on one day. There's no way to understand the overall performance of ventilation in a building by measuring one specific point in time on one specific day. And that's really the beauty of continuous monitoring, is that it gives you a long enough data set to be able to actually understand that, yes, this building is well enough ventilated. A05, enhanced air quality, is basically extra points for going above and beyond the minimum air quality requirements that are in feature A01, right? So you can earn 3 points for this feature using continuous monitoring by meeting these enhanced thresholds. So if you go kind of above and beyond with lower levels of particulate matter or inorganic gases, then you can get extra points. And all of this can be done using continuous monitors. A06 is kind of the upgraded version of A03, which is ventilation design. So this is for having enhanced ventilation. And again, there are several options to achieving this, but option 4 is around measuring long-term CO2 levels. And if your building's long-term CO2 levels are underneath 750 parts per million, then you can automatically be awarded these points, or within 350 ppm above outdoor levels. So you can see how this is actually a really great system, because if you have these continuous monitors, you may just be looking at the data one day and go, oh hey, look, we're actually under 750 ppm. And there's an extra couple points that maybe were not necessarily planned for on day one. But without doing any extra work, those points have essentially been unlocked by that data's existence. A08 is all about air quality monitoring and awareness, and this is the last feature that you can get points for within the air concept. And this is really just specifically about measuring air quality and then presenting data to help occupants understand their indoor environment. So if you've deployed continuous monitors that measure enough of the parameters, if you've gone for any of the other ones, for example, A01, using continuous monitors, you will automatically be meeting the requirements for part 1, right? Because you will be measuring enough of these parameters anyway. And you do need to regularly calibrate your sensors, but again, that's a requirement actually for A01 as well. And then promoting air quality awareness is where this is a little bit different. This is actually actively making this information available to your occupants, and that will give you an extra point. So to recap this episode, again, air quality is important. Well thinks so too, which is why the concept has so many preconditions, and it ensures that every well-certified building is providing good air, and it's providing good ventilation, and it's providing a healthy indoor air quality environment for its occupants. And I said that, the second takeaway is that continuous monitoring is a really easy way to get a lot of points. over the years, as more and more features have accepted sensor data as a pathway to compliance, it means that sensors that previously may have only given you a couple points can now give you up to 7 optimization points pretty much for free within the error concept. So going with performance testing or other methods, so to go through all of these features, in my opinion, is quite an involved process, because you have people that need to come on site, they need to take measurements, and that's for your A01. Then you need to go get letters of assurance for A03. You need to get letters of assurance from an engineer for A06. You need to get another performance test for A05. So there's sort of 5 or 6 different things that all need to be done for these various features. Whereas the use of sensor data actually allows you, through one single solution, which is just devices on walls, to capture all of this data and essentially just tick off these various features by proving compliance through data. And that, in my mind, is a much easier solution. Of course, continuous data and installing sensors has its challenges. Things need to be put on walls. They might need to be connected to a network. There can be complexities around working with IT teams, network security, all those things that might exist within a large organization. But once those devices are on the wall, a lot of boxes are getting ticked automatically. Now, finally, installing continuous IAQ monitors gives you a lot of points under the air concept. I didn't talk about the benefits that are also under the thermal comfort concept. So air quality continuous monitors also allow you to meet precondition T01 and get 2 extra points under T06 and T07. So those are under thermal comfort. So if we add all of this together, the air concept and the thermal comfort concept, that's 9 optimization points and a lot of preconditions that are being met simply by having these continuous monitoring sensors on the walls. And the way I look at this is, you might be going for a well silver project, but with 9 extra points, that's almost certainly enough to take you into being well gold. It's a really, really big jump up. So I've talked a lot about how important sensor data is, what we can do with it. On the next episode, we'll be talking about the steps to go through and how to make sure that you are selecting the right type of air quality monitor to actually be able to get all of the points on all of these features within your well project.